Hi Year 6 and welcome to Lesson 5, our final lesson on our Hoverbike persuasive writing. Let's get going, we should be on to our conclusion today. Before we get started on our main task, I just want to recap this week's SPAG. On Tuesday you were looking at the subjunctive verb form. When we want to express a wish or a command or our hopes, or we make suggestions to others, we use this very formal tone in our writing. And I know Mr. Cole shared some video clips and some songs where some people have used it correctly and others have used it incorrectly. So if you want to recap on this week's SPAG before you start today, might be a good idea. I'm just going to remind you of the sorts of sentences that might be useful. So I've popped some sentences here that might be useful for your conclusion today, when you are making suggestions to the company as to what they might do. I would be most grateful if this matter were given your immediate attention, or if your company were to seriously consider my complaint then, and give them some consequences, or I would be grateful if this matter were given your urgent attention and that you provide a swift response as to your intentions. This is the verb form were when we use it to follow the pronoun I when you want someone to do something for you. The other verb form that we use when we're using the subjunctive verb is that. It is imperative that you respond to my letter immediately. I recommend that you send me full compensation for all the above-mentioned damages, or something along the lines of, I suggest that your company responds quickly to this letter, or I shall have to take this matter further. As you can hear, these are all very formal suggestions that offer the company the opportunity to do something about the inconvenience and damages that you have suffered. So now you've come to the end of your letter, we need to plan your conclusion, and you need to tell the company how you want to be compensated for the accident, the damage, the inconvenience, not to mention the fact you no longer probably have a hoverbike that's working. Before you start, you might want to just jot down which subjunctive sentence you're going to use in your writing and then pop that into your conclusion planning. I've popped one in here at the bottom in red, and I've given you some suggestions as your openers in the actual conclusion box. So, how do you want this matter to be resolved? This is what you're looking at. You've probably incurred numerous expenses. Incurred means it's cost you. You've had to pay out for these things. You may have had to pay hospital bills, or possibly extensive damage and destruction to the house and therefore builder's fees to rebuild the wall at the front of your house. You may also have not been able to go to work, and your inability to work may have meant a loss of income, so loss of money. And then here I've popped in the plan for, can we use the subjunctive verb form for a conditional sentence, if I were you, or it is imperative that. These are just suggested openers that you might want to use to conclude your letter. The last thing you need to tell the company is what you want them to do. Do you want your money reimbursed? You could threaten to take them to court and sue them. You basically want some sort of compensation, and we'll talk about this word on the next page. You can see in this box here we've got the word reimburse, refund, compensate, pay damages. All these words mean essentially the same thing. You want the company to give you some sort of money to help ease the pain that you've experienced by flying this hoverbike into the side of your wall, and you want something back for a faulty product. So here's an example of a conclusion. Because your product has caused extensive damage to myself and home, I am seeking compensation. If I were fully reimbursed for the inconvenience this has caused me, I would find this acceptable, and I would be more than happy to leave the matter there. If not, you will be hearing from my lawyers, and I will see you in court. I look forward to a swift response. Yours faithfully, Mr. V. Annoyed. Notice how we used the ending here, yours faithfully, and that's because we don't know the name of the person we were writing to. If you remember, you wrote Dear Sir or Madam, and when you sign off a letter in that form, then you must say faithfully. Here's another example of another conclusion, similar, but just slightly varied. Because your product has caused extensive damage to myself and home, I am seeking compensation. Therefore, I demand that you reimburse me fully for all damages. If not, I will be forced to press formal charges against your company. I look forward to a swift response. Yours faithfully, Mrs. V. Annoyed. You want to tell the company that you expect some sort of action on their part, so your final sentence should tell them, I look forward to hearing from you, or I look forward to receiving a reply imminently, something that points out that you're not happy and you want them to do something about it fairly quickly. As always, I've popped you some sentence openers here that might be useful. Because it's the very last paragraph, you might start with the time conjunction finally. You might use some of these subordinating conjunctions that we've been talking about all week. So, since your vehicle has, due to the fact that, because, since this is entirely the fault of your company, or you might use some of these conditionals. If I were you, if you do not wish to see me in court. So a conditional sentence that offers a little bit of threat that you want something done, or else you might have to take further action. The last thing you need to do once you've written your entire letter is go through it and check against your checklist. So, have you maintained a formal tone all the way throughout your writing? Have you used emotive language to really express your feelings, your negative emotions all the way through the letter? And used a variety. Remember, I'd used a pulled an awful lot, so I need to go back and check that. Conjunctions to link your ideas together, particularly those subordinating conjunctions at the start of sentences. Have you made links between your paragraphs, making one idea link to the other using the orientation and concluding sentences in each section? Again, go back to the previous models to see how to do that. Introduction to explain why you were writing in the first place. Have you got clearly explained issues in detailed paragraphs, not jumbling the information up but sticking to one subject per paragraph? And have you got a conclusion explaining what you want the company to do at the end? Last challenge, can you use a subjunctive verb form or a conditional sentence in the end just to re-strike that formal tone of your letter? Well, good luck Year 6. I hope you've enjoyed complaining this week. I look forward to reading some of your examples.